Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD. I retired as a sergeant at a Manhattan North Homicide Squad. If you like real crime stories from a police perspective, please go on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. I'm so excited about this show tonight. It's unbelievable. We sort of stacked the deck. We got three flatfoots, I should say, right? Is that what they used to say, flatfoots? Three coppers and one made guy, one former made guy. To my right is straight out of Brooklyn, retired NYPD detective Phil Grimaldi. How you doing tonight, Phil?
Pretty good, Bill, and excited to hear what's going to happen tonight. I think we're going to have a good show.
I do too. And beneath Phil Grimaldi is retired detective, first grade Tommy Dades, who happens to be an organized crime expert, retired out of the 6'8 Squad Intelligence Division, and then spent 5 years in the Brooklyn DA's office chasing the mafia cops, who he is credited with putting away. And of course, the guest of honor tonight, the great Sammy the Bull Gravano. Welcome, Sam.
It's my pleasure, bro. And I got a hit team right outside of this, just in case this show goes a little haywire. So just remember that.
Just remember, we're all strapped too, Sammy.
All right.
We go to the range twice a year.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, Sammy, one of the things, and we're going to get right into it, is most people, what they want to hear told is they want to hear you kept the life, and you valued the life, and you always sort of kept that thing Cosa Nostra. That's Cosa Nostra. You know, that's our thing. And you always kept that close to your heart. Yet people want to know what made you then cooperate.
Wow, that's a hell of a story. It's on my podcast. You know, all my life, as you guys know, I've been busted all my life. I've been asked to cooperate 100 times. I never did. When I went to prison with John Gotti in 1990, he really didn't want to go to prison. And it was the worst 11 months I've did out of the 22 years I've been in prison. And he was really horrible to do time with. You know, Jerry Capisi a little while ago called me up and he said, I did an interview with F. Lee Bailey just the other day. Now, I didn't get along too much with F. Lee Bailey, and I don't think he liked me too much either, but this is what the guy said in his interview. He said, when the lawyers were restricted, who could represent us, who can't, we called him in. He's a good lawyer. There's no question about it. And he said to John, he said, John, you're admitting these things and talking about Sammy and Frankie on the tapes. You can't beat this case. What I suggest is that you take a plea. John looked at him and said, I got an ace in the hole. I'm going to throw Sammy and Frankie Locascio under the bus. I'm going to throw the weight on them, and I'm going to beat the case. F. Lee Bailey said, when John told him that, he left the room and never came back. He didn't want any part of doing that. He didn't want any part of the case, and he left. At first, I thought he was joking, so I didn't get too upset, even though we weren't getting along while we were in prison. After 11 months, he told me, he said, Sammy, I got a way where I could beat the case. Not we, he could beat the case. He says, I'm going to control all the lawyers. And I'm going to back up the tapes. I'm talking about you on tape. The lawyers are going to say, you hear John Gotti complaining about Sam. He's killing everybody. He's taking over businesses. He's taking over the unions, which was all bullshit. So the people are going to listen. The juries are going to listen. They're going to listen to the tapes. They're going to listen to what the lawyers say. Poor John Gotti, you hear him on the tape. He lost control of this animal. So they're going to convict you and I'm going to go free. I told him, is that what you want? He said, the streets needs the boss, and I'm the boss. It has to be that way. You have to take the weight. Now, I completely understand agents and cops want to put bad guys away. That's your job. I understand that. I don't have any hard feelings towards you guys at all, agents or anybody else. That's your job. But our job is to survive the case. We're together. We're brothers. Whoever could beat the case, God bless him. That wasn't John's attitude. John's attitude was he would beat the case no matter what. So I had turned around when he said that's what he was going to do. And I asked him, is that what you really want to do? And he said, yes. I turned away, no argument. In my mind, I said, fuck the mafia, fuck him. I'm going to the other side. And I flipped. And that's exactly what I did. Later on, it showed that everything he said on those tapes, I never had a partner or killed a partner and took over a business. I never killed anybody to take over a union. Later on, it came out that was a plot. He was trying to plot to kill me. And he needed a reason. You just can't kill your underboss who's extremely loyal to you, a big money maker for the family. If you do that, you scare everybody. Because people will turn around and say, if he could kill him, we're all in trouble. This guy had to lose his mind. So he was plotting this fake bullshit, trying to spread it around that I was doing these things. Eventually, when he would have killed me, he would have said, listen, you know what he did? He lost his mind. The guy was killing everybody. He was doing all these things. And this was his little plot. So, again, I don't mind the FBI and the cops trying to put me away and do their job. They got to protect the public. That's their job. Me, I don't have to do that to my co-defendant. To me, that's ratting in a different way. It's no different than taking the stand. If you're going to put your partner away, there's no different. I think you guys, all as cops, would understand that. Most people will.
Sammy, can I just ask you one quick question while you're on this? Had you said, all right, I'm going to take the hit, you're talking a hit of about 30 to 50 years, right?
Life.
No, life without parole.
Okay, life without parole. This was like a RICO thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was charged with, I think, 4 murders, conspiracy to murders, and every other thing, racketeering. It was life without parole. And
so
then
that
my wife and kids would have had to listen to this and say, he didn't even fight back. He just sat there like a potted plant. Right. Maybe he is a fucking animal.
Sammy, Jimmy Calandra from a Bath Avenue story is in the chat. He wants to say hello to you.
Okay, my pleasure. Jimmy's a good guy. He's a good friend of mine. I had him out where I live, and he was on a show with me, and he's a great guy.
Jimmy has his own podcast as well, and I understand that he spent some time with you recently, Sam.
Yeah, he did.
You get along well with Jimmy? Consider him a good friend?
Yes, I didn't know him years and years ago. He was a lot younger than me.
Right.
The Bath Avenue boys were tough, and they were up and coming. Just a little bit before I went to prison, but I knew of their reputation. I knew they were good guys. I met Jimmy and heard of him more later on. I had him over. He was going to stay in a hotel. I said, listen, don't even stay in a hotel. Stay in the house with me. I'm divorced. I'm living alone. So he came and lived with me with my dog, Lily. And we had a great time. We went out. I did a show with him. I wanted to help him with his show. He talks very well on his show. I like things he talks about. Yeah, I consider him a good friend.
He's going to be on our show on this Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories on September 26th. So we hope you tune in. And if you mention it on your podcast, we'd appreciate it.
I definitely will. And I watch
Thank you.
him. I watch a lot of his shows when they come out. I watched the show where him and Tommy Day talked, and he did a little bit of an interview with Tommy. I thought the show was great.
Sammy, I think one of the things about becoming a successful podcaster is being a good storyteller, and you're excellent at it. And so is Jimmy Calandra. He's great storytellers because you guys tell it like, I always say that the best podcasts are where you're just having a conversation and it doesn't seem contrived and you're not digging questions out of the trees. It's just like we're having a conversation like we are now.
Right. Yeah. I thought the interview he did with Tommy is very good. Tommy's a great guy. He was always a good guy. He grew up in.
Did he pay you to say that, Sammy? Did he pay you to say that?
It wasn't enough, so I'm not going to do a whole thing about him. But
I got to break his chops a little.
Yeah, I understand. I break his chops all the time too.
He breaks mine plenty. Don't worry.
Yeah. He's a good friend.
Nah, he's good people. I love the guy.
He grew up in the neighborhood. He was a tough guy. Some of us became gangsters. Some of us became cops. And, he was not on the take ever, but he was a good guy who would come around, always try to help you, help your family, and nothing more than that. I mean, I wish he was on the take. I could have did a lot of things if he was on the take.
Sammy, thank you for buying this Police Off the Cuff T-shirt there. I know you told me you were going to wear it to your next sit down,
Right. That's great. I like that.
We had our producer make that special for you,
All right.
Sammy, I wanted to ask you too, as long as we're on the subject, what was your relationship with John Gotti like before the shit hit the fan? What was it like on a day-to-day basis, doing business? He's the boss, you're the underboss. What was it like to work for him?
Listen, I love the guy. We were attached at the hip. I did everything under the sun for him. When I cooperated, there was almost every one of his trials. I was in the background rigging the trial, paying people, threatening people. I did everything under the sun. Killed for him. He was in trouble with Castellano, him and Angelo Ruggiero and their tapes. When they came to us, me, Frankie DeChico, for help, we talked about it for quite a while. I talk about it on my podcast, and we decided to save them by taking Paul out. That wasn't the only reason. Paul did a lot of fucked up things towards the end. I liked him immensely as well in the beginning, but he did a lot of bad things towards the end, got very greedy and doing all kinds of weird shit. So between doing bad things and screwed up things for the family, this thing happened with John and Angelo. They were finished. So we decided to save them, get rid of Paul, and try to change Cosa Nostra back to what it was. It didn't work out. Frankie DeChico was blown up and killed 4 months later. And John just completely, I don't know, he lost control of himself little at a time. He fell in love with himself, seeing himself on television. He was playing a role. We're a secret society. I tell a story that one time when Carlo Gambino bought a Cadillac. He always had a shit car, but he bought a Cadillac. And everybody was going, oh, it's a beautiful car. It's a beautiful car. He went to one of his sons and told him, sell the car. Why? It's beautiful. He said, that's the reason why. Everybody looks at it. Everybody talks about it. I don't want no publicity. Get rid of the car. I mean, that was our life. Gangsters like that, those are people I looked up to. When we were going to kill Paul, we went to Neil and told him about it. He didn't buy it. He wouldn't do it. You can't kill the boss. My guy, Tato, I didn't tell him what we were going to do because I knew he would have said the same thing. As soon as we did it, he retired. This isn't Cosa Nostra. Killing the boss is the end of Cosa Nostra. He stepped down. So that's real goes with Austria.
Sammy, me and you talk all the time, and we end up talking about other shit, except we don't talk about this stuff. And just a question, I think I know the answer to it, and I think it's probably an interesting question, is if nothing ever happened to Frankie, meaning the Chico, I know that you two had a conversation together before it was decided that you were going to go that way on John's side. You were right, as a matter of fact, because I know that you disagreed with, whatever night it was. I think it was Wednesday nights that everybody shaped up the night, and you disagreed with him having everybody come there all the time. And Trumati and Frankie, I know that was a lethal mistake, because they identified probably 125 guys that they wouldn't have identified had they not come and John had taken your advice. Had Frankie still been alive and John was doing that, what do you think Frankie DeChico would have done?
When me and Frankie originally talked, and I'm going to give you the answer this way, I didn't want John to be the boss. He brought all this down, him and Angelo. We were saving him. He didn't warrant being the boss. I don't think he deserved being the boss. I wanted Frankie to be the boss. Frankie says, Sam, he's got an ego like the Empire State Building. I could be his underboss. He can't be mine. We'd have nothing but trouble. Let's make him the boss. Me and you will be the power behind the throne. If he doesn't act the fool like he normally does, he'll be a great boss. If he acts the fool, I give you my word, we'll kill him. I'll be the boss, and you'll be my under. I shook his hand. So I hope that answers the question, that if Frankie would have lived, he would have been killed in 2 fucking minutes flat.
Sammy, Anthony DeLuca says, my father said Tato Marino. He loved him. I don't know what the reference is to. Maybe you guys know what that is.
22nd and 5th, the Dixie Tavern.
Yeah.
You know what?
This Anthony DeLuca is saying that his father must have known Tato Marino, and he loved him. Obviously, that was somebody that was close to you, Sam, Tato Marino, no?
Well, no, I knew Tato Marino. My Tato was Tato Arello.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, Tato, the one there's talking about is, I think, down 5th Avenue, downtown Brooklyn.
Yeah, Tommy just
and they had the bar. There was 3 Tatos. There was him. There was my Tato Arello from Bath Avenue, and there was another Tato from Bay 50th.
The Esplanade.
The Esplanade, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sam, I want to ask you a question. I want to switch gears a little bit to go into the earlier part of your life. Now, I know from watching your podcast, you were in the Rampers, and you guys were basically committing some petty crimes. There was no money and stuff. But when was it in your life that you knew that you were going to be a member of organized crime, or at least associated with organized crime? Was there a specific point in your life? Like, did you aspire that from when you were younger, or just as time went on and you got involved in things, it just happened? How'd that go, Sam?
I never wanted it. In the Rampers, we had this stupid motto, fuck the mob. It's us against the world. So we didn't want to have nothing to do with the mob. Later on, when I was 19 years old, I got drafted. I went into the Army during the Vietnam War, and I spent 2 years in. And when I came out, most of the Rampers had hooked up with mafia guys, and it changed around while I was gone. I still didn't hook up with anybody. And then after a while, I hooked up with Shorty Spiro and the Colombo family. And he told me what I wanted to hear. He said, Sammy, I'll never backstab. I'll never lie to you. Anytime I ask you to do something, I've already done it, or I'll do it with you. You're going to be part of a family. That became music to my ears. If I had to be with anybody, he was an ex-fighter, I shook his hand and I said, okay, I'll be in. And that's where I started, basically in the Colombo family. And it wasn't until I got out of the military when I was 21. I think I hooked up when I was about 22 or 23. I think 23. But I hooked up with the Colombo family. That's where I did my first murder. I never killed anybody before that. And there was a whole story with this Joe Colucci guy, and I wound up getting the contract. I did the work. And a couple of years later, I had a problem with his brother. And there's a whole story about that. I went to kill him, actually. And when they found out, they actually gave me right. And but they knew we couldn't live together. Some of the Gambino family talked for me. There was a high-level meeting, and they didn't kill Ralph Spiro because he was Shorty's brother. They didn't want to kill me because they thought I did the right thing. And it was just, I was transferred over to the Gambinos, who were talking for me and for the situation. That's where I met Toto Arello. I knew his son, Charlie Boy, all my life. I knew his father was a heavyweight, but I never knew him. And then I was with him, fell in love with the guy. He was just like my father, same height, same build, good man. And it wasn't like the Colombo guys, you know, beat this guy up, break this guy's ass, shoot this guy. It was more unions, business, you know, different type of guns. Not that they couldn't kill you or wouldn't kill you, but it was different. They had a little more compassion. They weren't always into violence. One of the things Toto told me, he said, violence could always be used as a last resort in our life. Use your fucking head. Listen to things with both ears before you resort to violence. So, and he showed me a story or two that I never forgot. And I really enjoyed it. You know, he was way older than me, so I was young still. And he would tell me stories, schmoozing about his past. And he's talking about his friends, Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, Vito Genovese. I was mesmerized. These names were like legends. And he's talking about them like they're his best friend, you know? So I was glued to him, and he was great. I had a great
Sammy, many times in your career, you came close to being the subject of a hit for different things that you did that may have pissed people off. How did you avoid that? I know the rules are the rules, but the rules are always broken also.
Sometimes they're broken. You know, I broke rules, but not listen, I never robbed anybody, beat anybody, lied to anybody, bullshitted to anybody. I had a pretty good reputation. I think Tommy Day would verify that. And when I broke rules, it wasn't intentionally to hurt anybody or do anything. Usually it was that something happened and people understood why I did what I did. And, you know, I look at, sometimes I talk to a friend that night. I missed getting hit so many times, it's crazy. And a lot of times I say to myself, I'm not a very religious guy, but I say to myself, God, so many times I missed it. Is there a purpose for this? I mean, I was shot in the back of the head with a rifle. It hit the back of my head. It nipped the skin. You know, it was coming in from an angle. And when it hit my skull, it just kept going the opposite way. And that's a miracle in itself. One time I got shot in the chest, came out my shoulder. It missed my heart by 1/4 of an inch. I came out of prison. I got cancer 3 times. Skin cancer, nothing major, and I beat it 3 times. So I told God, is there a purpose? I keep missing this. I mean, I had an appointment with Gas Pipes people and Al Diaco. They were in Gargiulio's restaurant in Coney Island, 5, 6 guys all loaded up. I'm ready to go, and I see a bunch of cars, FBI. So I think I'm going to get pinched. So I tell Big Louie and Johnny Gamarano, I had an envelope of money. I gave them the envelope. I said, listen, go to the meeting. I don't want to go there. I'll bring 100 cops with me. So give them my apology and tell them, you know, this is for this, this, and that. And I'll see you at another time. There's 6 guys there with guns. And the only reason I didn't go is because I see all these FBI cars around me. I figure, you know, why would I take that heat over there? And I missed that. So, and Al Diaco and other people talk about it. So there was so many times I missed it. You know, it's crazy. But I don't know how I missed it all them times. But I think I got lucky. I did 22 years in prisons. The second time I got pinched, I was in Arizona. I got a 20-year sentence, 19 years with the state, with a label that I cooperated. I says, I was 55. I said, I'll never make it. I'll never make this bit. But I made that too. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe God's looking out for me. You know, I'm a religion. I'm not a religious guy, but I do believe in God.
Anthony Santoro, thank you for the 1999 super chat. He says, thanks again for putting us onto this interview, Jimmy Calandra. Sammy's a legend in Bensonhurst and now nationwide. Tommy and Bill, great stories always, and thanks again. Bill Ryan, a man of his word always. Thank you, Anthony Santoro. You know, Sammy, you're one of the things that I listen to your podcast a lot, and I mean, I love the stories. And one of the things that you said, and you sort of said it just here, think like, you know, here you are, you live this life, you were in the life, but yet you still mention God. And I remember in one of the stories you mentioned how you were a gangster with a conscience, and specifically was the bar owner that had $300,000 worth of marijuana. And you said he asked you to hold it for him. And you said, if I was a bad gangster, I would have just put two in the back of his head and taken the $300,000 worth of weed. But I'm a gangster with a conscience, so I gave it back to him, and he gave me $5,000.
You know what it was? Let me just get that real quick. I'll give you that story again. It was Patty Crickeneck, and he was from Bath Avenue at a bar. He calls me up. He needs a favor. You know, here's a friend asking you for a favor, and he's in trouble. And I go over there, and he's got 800 pounds of pot. I was 2-3 months back in rent. I couldn't even pay the $300 a month rent. And I pick it up, and I bring it home. And I figure it out, nickel bags, little bullshit things. I could make $300,000. So I'm from dead broke to rich, 2 bullets away from that. And when I used to go to the bar, I knew his son as the kid. He'd sit on my lap at the bar. He was a great kid. I did think about it. I really did. I don't want to say I didn't. I did think about it. But I said, how could I live with myself after that? I'm not other people won't trust me. How could I live with myself? How could I look at myself in the fucking mirror after a guy put his life in my hands? And what did I do? I took it. I took his life for fucking money. And I changed my mind. But, you know, the guy called me back a couple of days, a week later, thanked me so much, gave me a kiss on the cheek, gave me $5,000. Back then it was a lot of money. I paid my rent. And I thank God I didn't do that.
Sammy, look at you and Joey T. And I knew Joey T very well. I mean, we'd sit there. We both had lived in Vegas at the same time. And Joey was a bartender in Tally's. And everybody knew it. So it wasn't like, you know, Joey was a degenerate gambler. He was just like a knock-around guy, you know, drinker, gambling. He'd bet on 2 cockroach rings, you know. And he took money out of the cash register. And everybody in the bar knew it. And, of course, Sammy knew it. And Joey took off like a bat out of hell thinking Sammy was going to hurt him. And I think it was his cousin that you reached out to and told him to come back.
I think his name was Mikey.
You put him back in the bar and took $10 a week from him. So,
you know, it's not only the money in the register. They bet sports. He took that money. He took a couple of things, but he took a bundle of money and gambled and did everything and then took off. He got scared. A couple of my guys said, we're going to take him out? No, for robbing a few dollars, he's broke. You know, and then I called his cousin Mikey, and he says, I don't know where he is. Listen, you know where the fuck he is. Get him on the fucking phone. He got him on the phone. I said, get the fuck back here. Tell me who you owe money, and I'll work this out. I put him back to work, and I said, you owe me this money, and every week you give me a few dollars. There's no interest. There's no none. I called everybody in who he owed money to, and I called them in, street guys, and I said, you're even. He owes you nothing. I'm straightening out his debt, and your debt is paid. You know the guys around me. You know he's gambling. Why would you give him this money and barrel him up? Now you're not getting paid. And if you take a bet from him, don't even hurt him or don't even bother getting the money. You ain't getting it. So And he went to work, and I never heard him. I hurt people. I killed people. But I grew up, I'm a different kind of gangster. My mother and father, I never had street people in my family directly. My mother and father were hardworking people, and my mother was a seamstress. My father was a painter, the most honest people you ever want to meet in your life. That was instilled in me as well as being a gangster. So I say I'm a different kind of fucking gangster. I do have a heart. I do have compassion. But I was very good at what I did. And when you broke the rules and I had to do what I had to do, I did it. There's a lot of cops, I would assume, that don't want to pull a trigger. And they do if in a certain situation. But they're not trigger happy. Listen, there's some bad cops, there's some bad gangsters, there's some bad everything. There's bad apples in everything. But most cops are good people. They don't want to do some of the things that happen. And it kills them, I'm sure, if they have to shoot somebody. It probably bothers them just as much as it bothered me. You may not believe that, but it bothered me. Everybody who died, a little piece of me died with him.
Angela Eng, thank you for the $5 super chat. She says, I grew up blocks from the Ravenite upstairs from Little Charlie's. You think Carlo Gambino put a Maluk when he changed the name of the club?
That's the Maloika, Bill.
Yeah, Maloik. I don't know how to pronounce those words.
Is that $5 mine? Did she say that?
Only if you send the team here. Only if you can find me.
All right, give me $250 of it anyway.
Let's take, guys, we could take, Phil, we'll take a quick break. You guys, if you have to use the bathroom, take a drink. We'll just have a quick commercial here, and then we'll be right back. Phil, you can read the first one.
Well, this is fitting tonight because some of the listeners might need an attorney. So we have Joe Murray, attorney at law. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He knows both sides of the fence, literally. His website is jmurray-law.com, jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702. Some of the listeners, write it down, 646-838-1702. Or you can reach Joe by email at joe@jmurray-law.com, joe@jmurray-law.com. Get well soon, Joe.
Folks, Police Coffee is an officer-owned business dedicated to crafting the finest coffees and blends. It's there to provide you with the freshest coffee available. Each batch is roasted fresh by people who know what it means to stay vigilant. And our specialty coffees do not waste one drop when flavor is concerned. Our coffee is some of the best you'll find, but also helps serve an important cause, giving back to our community. 50% of our profits go towards helping family members of police officers who fell in the line of duty. To order coffee and related products from policecoffee.com, go to the website. There are over 7 types of coffee to choose from, and 50% of the profits go to officers' families in need. For a 10% discount, use code OTC10. That's off the cuff 10. We're back. Sammy, these are one of the things I just want to say while you're here also is thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know you're great friends with Tommy Dades. This is a great thing. You're a fantastic guest. I love your stories, and obviously so do the people listening to this.
Well, listen, it's my pleasure. And yes, I am a good friend of Tommy, but all these names, Grimaldi and you guys, those names are very familiar to me. These are good guys as well.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I wanted to just ask you a question, Sam. Now, I know you've probably been to a lot of sit downs in your day. To explain to people that might be watching, don't know what a sit down is, if there's a beef or an issue that is amongst made guys or unmade guys, there would be a ruling body. You'd take the beef to a boss or a captain or a made guy, whoever it may be, and you settle it. And sometimes if it's a heavy sit down, it could lead to a death sentence. Of all the sit downs you've been involved in, Sammy, is there one that stands out in your mind that might be worth talking about tonight?
I've been involved in so many different sit downs. It was incredible. I mean, You know, there's one, there was Sal Vitale. He was the underboss of the Gambino family. And he had a company that was being unionized by the Teamsters, Bobby Sasso, and I was running that union. And he came down and talked to me. There was a strike. People were in the street. So he said, Sammy, we would like to stop the strike. And, you know, these people are with us. So I said, well, I think you came a little late. There's a strike in the street. I don't think they could do anything. And I said, let's make another appointment and let me see what I could do. The next appointment, when we sat down, I said, listen, I talked to Bobby Sasso. I worked it out. There's two different contracts. One's a good contract for the people. It'll cost your friend a lot of money. And there's a shit contract that won't cost them a lot of money. Now, it'll cost you $100,000 to do it. And he'll have a sweetheart contract. You shaking me down? I'm not shaking you down, bro. First of all, John and Joe Messina have a good relationship. I'm going to give Bobby Sasso and the union people some of that 100,000. Whatever's the balance, we're going to split it. And your guy's going to save a ton of money. Now, there's nothing I could do to stop all these people picketing in the street. So you have a choice with your friend. And I resent the fact that you're telling me that I'm shaking you down. You know we have this union. You know this is going on. Instead of coming to me like a fucking man at first, maybe there wouldn't be a strike. But you try to get cute. And then when there's a problem, then you come to me. Now I'm solving your problem and you want to talk to me like I'm shaking you down? Oh, Sammy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't know you were going to give us half. So that changed the whole picture for you, the money end of it, or saving your friend. What were you interested in? So that was one that interests me a little bit, but there was a lot of them, some of them serious, some of them not so serious. They don't always result in a murder. You know, most of the times they don't. A murder, if you broke the rules, there's really not a sit down or nothing going on with it. You're just going to go. But they're usually about business, about unions, about arguments and fights and family disputes. And I'll tell you another silly one, but John Gotti couldn't straighten nothing out with gas pipe. They hated John. And I grew up with gas pipe a little bit. So he would tell me, straighten this beef out with your fucking friend. He was so annoyed he couldn't get it done. I go to gas pipe. I said, what's the beef? There's a fence. Two legitimate families. The fence is a little bit, a foot on one guy's side, and they're fighting over taking the fence down, suing, doing this, doing that. So I said, gas pipe, I mean, we got to just straighten this thing out. Yeah, my guys, it's on his side. What the fuck is a foot? What does it mean? You got a major sit down. I'm an underboss. You're an underboss, and we're arguing about a fucking fence. You know what we could do? Rip the fucking fence down, rebuild it. I'll pay half, you pay half, and there's no more argument. Or we're going to go, how long do we're going to bring this now to bosses over a fucking fence, bro. But he was so petty. And then after he said, all right, Sammy, all right, that makes sense. And the people left the fence. I think we got the guy, his friend, we did something good for him. I forgot what it was. And the guy with us, you know, I told him, we won, don't worry about it, leave your fence alone. You know, but don't, you know, argue over this stupid shit, a fence. So
the mafia even did community service, I guess. Huh?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Stupid shit like that. But we sat down with things like that, straightened them out. You know,
Sammy, Larry Lapper says, who is the toughest, most vicious guy to come out of your neighborhood, Bensonhurst? Scarpa, Gas Pipe, Frank DeChico, or anyone else? Who would you say?
Frankie DeChico. I would say Frankie DeChico. And here's why. Not only was he tough physically, tough with a gun, tough with his mount, he was an underdog type of guy. He helped more fucking people that were being abused by people. Scarpa was a fucking animal. Not in the same bracket as, you know, when you go to a certain point, you cross that line, you become, to me, a serial killer. You're not in it. That's not a tough guy no more. That's a fucking lunatic. Frankie the Chico was far from that. I was there one day, there was an argument and 2, 3 guys, and they were talking about some guy. And the 3 guys were made guys. And he said, are you guys kidding? We grew up. We did the same shit as this guy, bro. Now you're going to gang up on the guy? We'll talk to the guy, and it's not going to happen. I'll talk to the guy. But I'm telling you another thing that's going to happen. Nobody's going to fuck with him. That, to me, is a man's man. He was for the underdog. He did the right thing. He helped many more people than he hurt. And so I would say Frankie was probably one of the toughest guys in that neighborhood, and fair. So it's not just how tough you are. It's what you are as a human being. I could gravitate towards a tough guy, whether he's Tommy Day and he's a cop and he goes to fucking boxing rings, or whether he's Frankie the Chico. It's not how tough you are. If you're a fucking animal, that's not a tough guy to me.
You know, Marky Wohoo says Sammy is like E.F. Hutton. When he speaks, we all listen. The Johnny Keys story was so intense, I was standing literally frozen by the end.
That story's probably that's an amazing,
Very intense, right, Tom?
Was that the commission hit?
Yeah, that was the commission.
Yes.
It's a 3.5 hour story.
And I say, you know, this guy, what did you learn out of that hit? He taught me this. He taught me how to die, how to be a man. He really did. It's so fucking weird that I literally, the time I was in a van with this guy, until it was time to go, I had such respect. I fell in love with the guy. To me, he became the epitome of our life. When I saw Paul the next day, I said, I killed him. I did what I had to do. But he was the epitome of our life. He should have been the boss, this guy. I don't feel right. I feel dirty for what I did last night. And Paul looked at me and said, Sammy, you have balls to tell me something like that. Don't change. Be you. Stay like that. But that story, I can't even tell it half the times when I'm talking about it with a straight face. I mean, he just left such an impression on me. Here's a guy, people telling, oh, he died with his shoes off. Here's a 70-year-old fucking man telling me to take his shoes off. Why? Because my wife knew I was in the street. She knew there was a mob war going on. And I would comfort her by telling her, I'll die with my shoes off. Don't worry about it. Now he tells me he's sending her a message. A short time before he knows he's going to die. Who the fuck would do that?
You know, Sammy, when I was hearing that story, you know, I mean, it was, you were like in the van with him for like 13 hours and you're talking. It was almost like the history of Cosa Nostra. But I kept thinking of like, here's a guy that he knows he's going to get whacked. He knows he's going to get 2 in the back of his head. And he's sort of like negotiating with you. And I remember one of the things he said, he goes, Sammy, you got to promise me that the guy who kills me is a made guy.
Right.
And I was just like, you know, at that point, I'd be so shitting in my pants. I wouldn't give a shit if it was going to kill me. I was going to think about how I was going to run once I got out of that van, you know?
Look at when he tells me about, I got pills in my pocket. Give me a pill. What's that? He says, they're nitroglycerin pills. I don't want to die of a heart attack. He's tied up with his wrists and his legs with a hit team. I mean, what do you give a fuck how you're going to die? Maybe it's easier to die with that. When I went through a toll booth, I'm going to gag him. He said, you don't have to. This isn't about cops. This isn't about anything. This is about Cosa Nostra. This is about us. He didn't even try to fight back.
He accepted his destiny. He accepted it at that point, I
He
guess.
lived up to the life and accepted his destiny exactly right. And if you don't respect a guy like that,
100%.
I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, and me, that's how I felt. I mean, I respected him till today. I hope when I told that story, I hope children, grandchildren, or somebody say, that was my grandfather. That was my father. He was a fucking man. I hope that they have some peace that to hear the story, how tough, how strong he was.
That
Now,
left
he
man,
wasn't a good guy now. He had 50 hits under his belt. That was his reputation, 50. He was a super hit guy. Listen, he tells me to my face, what 5 families couldn't do, and the Philadelphia mob, you did it. And he was told I was a jerk off and just a messenger. He looked at me and smiled and said, a jerk off, a messenger. What 5 families couldn't do, plus the Philadelphia mob, you did. You have me sitting in this fucking van. And he was smart, cunning, treacherous. And I amazed him to the point where it was like we're talking now. We had a respect for one another talking. It doesn't even sound real, but you can't make this up. I mean, it killed me. It broke my heart. It broke my fuck. The last thing I wanted to do was kill him.
You know, Sammy, when we spoke to, we had Joe Pistone, who you know, the AKA Donnie Brasco, on the show.
Right.
And he spoke about how he was so close with Sonny Black. And when the shit went down and they realized that Joe Pistone was actually Donnie Brasco, or Donnie Brasco was actually Joe Pistone, Sonny Black did something similar. He just turned himself in, knowing he was going to get whacked. And that's what you would say, that's Cosa Nostra.
he also remember Sonny Black, I think it was his girlfriend that Joe Pistone said, called the FBI and said, I want to talk to Donnie Brasco. And they flew it to Washington. And Sonny Black, I mean, that's another real story when you really think about it. He said the message because he knew he was going to die, and told the girl to tell Joe Pistone, you didn't force me to do nothing. I love you. I loved you. I still do. I respect you. Don't feel bad. You only did your job. And when they shot him, he went down a flight of stairs and he just looked up at them and said, make the next one count. So it's a very almost similar. Wasn't as a long period of time as you spent with Johnny Keys, but the same type of guy, you know?
Listen, that happened with Joe Colombo during the war, and they snatched him, and they let him go. They didn't kill him. They let him go because of the way he acted while he was snatched. And the Gallows, Larry Gallo, said, let him go. He gave him let him go because of the way he acted. He said, don't abuse me, don't do nothing. I'm not a punk. Put the gun to my head and kill me. And it impressed Larry Gallo to the point he let him go. There are guys in the life like that. And, you know, the life is full with good fucking people. I know it sounds strange, but good people with good thoughts, they were loyal. You know what I say I am, or we are, some of us? We're warriors in a life, like the samurai. The samurai have this secret organization. You know what they were in Japan, and they were brutal. They chop each other's heads off, arms off, or things. When they lose a battle, they stick a fucking knife in their belly and kill themselves to die with honor. There are people in our life did the same thing. And, you know, you could make an argument, these are bad people and this, that, and the other thing. And we are in a certain way. And there's a lot of us that are not good. But some people have so much honor that it supersedes what they even did. So, and I think that's in every form of life. I mean, you'll see cops do some weird fucking things running into a. Look what happened on 9/11. Cops running in and firemen running into the fucking buildings over and over and over again till the fucking thing fell on them and killed them. So when people want to defund cops or talk all this fucking nonsense, I mean, look at those people, what they did. Look at them. And I say people, I'm not talking cops, whether it's cops, firemen, those are people. And what they did was heroic. And how people could want to, I tell you one thing, if I'm having a fucking heart attack, don't get me a social worker, get me a cop so he can call the fucking ambulance. I can survive maybe.
That's
Right.
when you'd be pulling for a flat foot, right, Sam?
No, listen, if my daughter or granddaughter was getting raped or bothered, who the fuck would I want there?
But
Listen,
you know
those
what-
names. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
No, you know what? It's. I mean, you think of the life that Sammy came from, you know, in the streets, and I'm very close. As close as I am to Sammy, as close as I am to the two agents that Sammy spent a lot of time with. And it wasn't just about, you know, debriefing things. It was, you know, they developed a very strong relationship over the years and care about each other very much. And they have nothing but great things to say about their experiences with Sammy, not just about work-wise, but just, you know, they would talk about, you know, even playing chess with him. They couldn't beat him in chess. It's just funny how you could get people from, you know, when would Sammy ever think that he would actually sit down and break bread with two agents and really care about them?
Right.
And you have two agents that, you know, one was a Marine, one was a school teacher, became FBI agents. They were partners for 22 years. They're two of the sweetest guys in the world and think the world of Sammy. And there's a real bond.
Let me give them a shout out. We're talking about Special Agent Matty Tricorco and Special Agent Frank Spiro. They were in C-16, the Gambino squad, and they were with Sammy for what, a couple of years, right, Sam?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Listen, they were even longer because when I was on the street, they were assigned to me. They were always around me. They were always courteous. They were always doing their job. Like I said, they got a job to follow me, to put me away if I break the law. But they were never disrespectful to me, my family, or anything. Matter of fact, one day it was right close to Christmas. And I come in from somewhere. I come in my office. My secretary says that Frank and Matty are outside. They're sitting in a car, it's snowing. Really, right now, right before Christmas Eve? Yeah. Get me a cardboard box. I got a cardboard box. I got coffee, cannolis, cakes, every fucking thing. And I brought it to the car and I banged it on the fucking window. So he's, what do you want? I says, here, take this box. What's that? It's coffee. It's espresso. It's cannolis in there. There's everything in there. Oh, we can't take that. It's not a fucking bribe. Take this fucking coffee so you can even freeze it in there.
Christmas.
So you know, when I got pinched, and these guys put me in their car. They turned around. I hope they don't get mad at me for saying this. They took me in their car. They said, Sammy, you got money on you or anything? I said, yeah. I got a couple of $1,000, $4,000, $5,000. Why? He said, you're gonna get locked up. You're never gonna see that money. If you want, give me the money, give me your jewelry, and I'll give it to Deb. Talking Deb like that was her sister. It's my wife.
Wife.
Called her Deb. So I said, well, you know, I'm thinking, if anybody's going to rob it, it might as well be that. So I give him the fucking money. I give him the jewelry. The next fucking day, it was in my house, given to my wife. They were such gentlemen, such manly people. And then I spent time, when they would come on a detail, when I was in Quantico, they would come in. I think it was Frank's wife.
Made you pasta.
She used to make me pasta. So I would eat the pasta. I think 6 months ago, I called his house and his wife answered. So I said, listen, you're still his wife, right? Yeah, it's me, Sammy. Yeah, good. I says, listen, thank you so much. The pasta was fucking great. She said that's 20 fucking something years ago.
That's
No,
called
Sammy.
mutual respect, Sam. Mutual respect, and
Yes.
I think when I worked with Tommy in the 6'8" squad, he had that type of respect with certain guys, specifically Billy Catulo, Wild Bill, and I learned something from that. That we don't have to be so adversarial if you approach it as like a business transaction, so to speak. I know it's a little crazy. I'm going to put handcuffs on you and put you in jail, but if guys gave me respect, I always gave it back, and that could be the scale from the projects, or that could be an organized crime captain, boss, whatever. So, and I think that, listen, like you said, we're just doing our job. You were doing your thing. And if you got caught up in it, it was part of the game.
Right. And some people actually try to help you. They didn't want you to go away for 50,000 years. I mean, they got to know you. They got to understand you. If you were a guy like a Roy DeMeo, I can understand these cops must have had a hard on for him. He's just a lunatic. Same thing with Gas Pipe. But yeah, you respect one another. Listen, I still have a relationship with Frank and Maddie. I send word to them all the time. I called them on occasion. Same thing with George Gabriel. He was the head of the C-16 squad. He was the case agent in the Gotti case. I still have a relationship with him. I still talk with him, And
Sammy,
what do you think of
people
the
would
judge?
find.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Bill.
No, I would say people would find that sort of like they maybe can't understand that, but we as cops,
You don't know.
yeah, no, I mean we understand it because it's a long-term relationship, and you're on different sides of the fence, but there is a mutual respect there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, like I said, I mean, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whether you're a man or a woman, I love people for what they are. I don't give a shit if you were a cop, an agent, a gangster. If you're a good person, I could like you a lot. And I could, it comes from my heart. I don't just have to try to act like a tough guy. Oh, you're a cop, fuck you. That's not me. Maybe I'm a different kind of gangster. I don't do that.
That was
You're a good person. I care about you. Period. And that's the way I look at it. And I've had people listen when I got pinched with a cold case, killing a cop with what the fuck was his name? The
Iceman.
The Iceman.
Klinsky.
Which was total fucking bullshit. I mean, I had so many agents, prosecutors, and everything because they know I didn't do it. Were trying to help me with the case. They came out of the woodwork. I didn't ask them to come out. They came out, and a lot of people, not only cops, regular cops, agents, prosecutors, and everything came out.
That was proven to not be true.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, the guy confessed to killing Roy DeMeo. So the agents went to him, "Oh, you killed Roy DeMeo?" "Yeah." "Well, why'd you put that thing on top of his body in the trunk?" He couldn't answer. He didn't even know what it was. It was a chandelier. It came out later. I guess he didn't know at that time. And he says he didn't do it.
That's why the police. That's why the police keep things secret so that they can challenge people with it.
Right. And when he got challenged, he fell apart. It was all bullshit. So,
Sammy,
Go ahead, Bill,
we're up on an hour, and I know he doesn't want to go over an hour, and I don't blame him.
Okay.
We discussed this, so I'll give everyone the last words, and then we're gonna have to say goodbye. I just want to say, Sammy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, your stories are fascinating, and we get a little shit too about, oh, you guys are entertaining a gangster. This is what we did in our real life as police. We spoke to people on the other side of the fence, and maybe people would think this is a little different. Yeah, it is a little different, but I'm not apologizing to anybody. I did 27 years in the NYPD. I had an exemplary career. Phil Grimaldi the same. Tommy Dade's the same. We don't have to apologize to anybody.
I know
Philly,
he's up 15.
Philly, last words?
Yes, last words. Sammy, I grew up in Gravesend, Brooklyn. I saw you growing up. I knew who you were. I knew a lot of different gangsters. I went right because of family members and different things, but I watch your podcast. I see a lot of the things that you said. And I still have relatives in Brooklyn, and I'm in Brooklyn sometimes once or twice a week, and people will talk and they'll say, Sammy's full of shit and stuff like that. But I got to say, a lot of the stories that you tell, from my knowledge of growing up about organized crime and all the different things that went on, a lot of them make sense to me. And that's what I answer when they say, he's full of shit, he's just talking. I know that you have a lot of listeners on your podcast. For me, a lot of the stories make a lot of sense. I just want to thank you for coming on. I know you haven't did many interviews in the past, and we really appreciate you coming on. And again, to echo what Bill said, we're not condoning criminal behavior. We're just doing a podcast, and we're getting information from you, and it's a conversation. And if there's a positive message, you said you asked God how many times, I almost got it. If there's a positive message that you could send out, maybe young guys looking at organized crime guys today, which it's obviously not the same life, but is there something you would say to guys, young guys, maybe enamored by the life that want to get into it real quick?
I would tell you, go fuck yourself. Number one, I would tell them,
Perfect.
Tell them this: you want to be me? I got shot twice. I got 22 years in fucking prison. I almost lost my life a bunch of times other than getting shot. You want to shoot your best friend? Then God bless. Go do it. I'm not going to be your priest. Go do it, but you're going to do what I did. A lot of fucking time. A lot of your life you're going to spend in prison. You're going to shoot your friend. They're going to shoot you. I hope you live through it. So that's my advice to you.
Sounds like a lot of heartache.
Like a counselor with them. Do what you want, but you're going to regret it in the long run. There's legitimate things out there, and you can make money legitimate, have a great life, have a great wife, have children, grandchildren. Enjoy your fucking freedom. And if you think you're a real tough guy, when you go to prison, you're going to meet a lot of tough guys. And they're going to tell you when to wake up, when to eat, when to lay down, when to go to sleep. So if you want that type of life, God bless you. Go for it.
Tommy, you're up, Tommy.
Thank you so much, Sammy. I really appreciate you coming on. It was great to have you on the show, and you're always interesting to talk to.
It was fascinating. And Jimmy Calandra, I know you're in the chat. Well, Jimmy Calandra is going to be on the show on Sunday the 26th, actually at 6 p.m. We're doing an early bird show for you folks that you can't stay up late. But Sammy, before we say goodbye, would you give me, okay, bro, that was good. Give me a bro, or give me
Adios, motherfucker.
Adios.
Adios, motherfuckers.
There we go.
Bros, all these bros. I enjoyed the show. Jimmy's my friend. I hope he does great on the show as well. I know he will. He's a good guy, stand-up guy, and so are you guys. He couldn't be in better company.
Thank you.
Again, adios, motherfuckers.
Good night, Sammy. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Hey.
Good night.
Stay safe.